Hey, First Things First listeners, before we start the show, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com, reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, as well as the televised version of this show, just a click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. So download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com. Now let's start the show. First things first, James Harden is headed to Brooklyn. Are the Nets now the favorites to win the title? How should the Sixers feel after they missed out on the beard? And what does this all mean now for Kyrie's future? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. I'm Jenna Wolfe, alongside Nick Wright, Brandon Marshall, Kevin Wilds. Nick, your Lakers, upset alert. There's a new sheriff in town, buddy. You worried at all?
Oh, that's a funny way. Jenna, that's the funniest joke you've ever told in the 3.5 years we've done this show. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
The bar's clearly low. I agree, Wilds. It was a compliment. This is where we start, though. James Harden saying he wanted out of Houston, and yesterday his wants came true. James Harden heading to Brooklyn to join Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. It took 4 teams and a truckload of draft capital to pull this off as they send 3 firsts, 4 pick swaps, and players to the Rockets, Pacers, and Cavs, yada, yada, yada. They get former MVP James Harden back in return. Now, Nick, you tweeted yesterday right after we went off the air that things were heating up on the Harden front. Go ahead and break down this whole deal for us, because there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of teams involved.
Yeah, all day yesterday, the scuttlebutt around the league was that this was going to happen. Boston and Miami kind of tapped out of the deal relatively early. Shockingly, Boston didn't want to actually put any good players in a trade. Okay. Philly, though, was hot and heavy after James Harden. Ben Simmons was prepared to be traded, which is why Brooklyn had to give up everything they legally were allowed to give up. You might say, oh, they kept Joe Harris. They weren't allowed to trade Joe Harris. Oh, they kept DeAndre Jordan. Nobody wanted DeAndre Jordan. They gave up everything. So let's show what everybody gave up, and then we'll show what everybody got. Obviously, the Rockets give up James Harden. The Nets give up all of those players, their depth, their entire control of their draft over the next 7 years. And the Cavs and Pacers, quietly, by the way, both huge winners just for being involved. So that's what everyone gave up. Here's what everyone got in return. And what we're going to focus on, obviously, is the Nets and the Rockets. So the Nets get James Harden back. The Rockets get those players. You might say, wait, they didn't want Karis LeVert? Wait, they could have had Ben Simmons. More on that in a moment. More importantly for the Rockets, they get 4 first-round picks, 3 from the Nets, 1 from Milwaukee that Indiana had control, or the Cavs had control of, and 4 pick swaps, meaning 4 years where if the Nets are worse than the Rockets can trade picks. So let's zoom in on one team. What did the Rockets give up? What did the Rockets get? They obviously gave up Harden. They get Dante Exum, who happens to be on an expiring contract, Victor Oladipo, who happens to be on an expiring contract, Crooks, and of course the draft capital. So this was, if you're a pessimist, you would say Tillman Fertitta, who's not exactly the most, let's call it, liquid owner in the league right now, saves a bunch of money, gets under the salary cap, and it's a full-on rebuild. If you're an optimist, it's, well, they just liked Oladipo more than Karis LeVert. What did the Nets give up? What did the Nets get? The Nets obviously gave up, well, all of their depth. And I'm very interested to hear what Brandon has to say about that, because I know how much Brandon liked the Nets bench mob previously. They also give up all their draft picks. The Nets obviously believe those draft picks are going to be in the late 20s because they're going to be competing for championships. What they get is James Harden, and don't worry about that Cleveland pick. So that's what happened here. And Brandon, to me, this signaled a couple of things. One is that the Nets, with the uncertainty surrounding Kyrie Irving, with the injury to Spencer Dinwiddie, they said, you know what? What we currently have is not going to be good enough, and we have to go all in on having there's no big threes in the league now, except for in Brooklyn, if and when Kyrie returns. The biggest question is, Brandon, aside from on the defensive side of the ball, I feel a bad team got worse defensively. The question is, how is the fit going to work when Harden has been the best player on a team for a decade? Now he's got to take a step back. How is Kyrie coming back? Is Kyrie going to be the third star, or do they even think Kyrie's going to be a part of it? Those are the questions. But before they had James Harden, Brandon, this was the team you picked to win the title. Do you think they got better, worse, or stayed the same yesterday?
Is that a rhetorical question?
No.
We got better. Of course we got better. In today's game, it's about scoring the basket. You know that. Who cares about defense? There's 3 teams in the entire NBA that plays defense right now. So, of course, we got better. And I don't think it's going to be a big 3. So I'll say that right now. I truly believe, and this is all me and my experience as a player and being around a lot of players, training guys since 2012. I think Kyrie's contemplating retirement. I don't think he's coming back. You can tell just how Nash has answered questions. You know, well, I'm coaching the guys who are here. And, well, I haven't heard from him. That was on the onset. So when you look at this deal, this is a really good deal for the Nets and everybody else. You know, they got richer with some draft picks. But at the end of the day, it's about winning championships. And I said this at the beginning. I said, look, if he wants out, Wilds, he's going to get out. And you and Nick and everybody else and Chris, well, Brandon, the team, they have all the leverage. The leverage. I said, look, the player, yes, they may have all the leverage now, but the player, if they stop playing or if their back hurts, they'll get out. And a lot of people are upset about how James Harden went about it. But put yourself in his shoes for 1 minute. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to disagree. I just want you to see the whole picture. You're in your 12th year. You did everything else. You don't have any ring. And you're thinking about, do I go chase that ring or do I stay here, don't win? I'm celebrated in Houston, but I'm also on that list with Charles Barkley as one of the greatest players to play the game and never never win a championship. So James Harden had to make that decision, and he had to use the only leverage he had, and that's his dribble, that's his shot, that's what he does on the court with his teammates. You take that away, and you make it really, really uncomfortable. That's what the Houston Rockets said they wanted to do, and they wasn't willing to go deep. Because when you got DeMarcus Cousins standing up before the trade happens and saying, you know what, the disrespect happened and started before today. That's what he said.
That's right.
So that locker room was uncomfortable. That entire organization was uncomfortable, Wilds. So I think, look, at the end of the day, 20 years from now, we will not be talking about James Harden and his exit from Houston. What we will be talking about is how James Harden paired up with KD, won a championship, and how he went down as one of the top and greatest players in NBA history. That's what we'll be talking about.
You're 100% right. We're not going to talk about James Harden exit from Houston on Friday. Today's the last day anyone cares about that. You're 100% right. It'll just be like Anthony Davis's ugly exit from New Orleans that no one has mentioned since the last 2 seconds that I mentioned it, and they'll never mention again. Okay, Nick, here's the big question I have. I want you to answer this. Who wants to be Chris Bosh? Who wants to be the guy who sacrifices their personal statistics for a championship? The most famous Chris Bosh, of course, was Chris Bosh. 24-11 in Toronto, goes to Miami, goes 19-9, wins 2 championships, famously scored 0 points in a Game 7. I guess you could say that's a positive because he didn't need to carry the load. On the other side, it's like, we're going to do it without you. Ray Allen, old Supersonics Ray Allen, 26 points a game, getting 21 shots. Goes to Boston with the great Paul Pierce, who I know you love, goes 17 points, 13 shots a game. Yeah. He ends up getting 2 rings, never scores 20 again. Kevin Love was scoring 26 points, 12.5 rebounds in Minnesota, goes to see your buddy, wins a championship, goes for 16-10. By the way, still in Cleveland, still hanging out in Cleveland, still hasn't been, I expect him to be moved. So out of the big 3 right now, And Brandon, you hinted at the retirement thing. I don't know if that's on the board.
Well,
but certainly, hey, buddy, come
let's
back.
Assume
we want you to now sacrifice even more.
So here's the thing. The problem is this, Wilds. There is only one player of those three, because let's just assume, I agree with Brandon, it is far from a certainty that Kyrie Irving, when the playoffs start, is going to be on the Brooklyn Nets. Whether it's because he gets injured, because that is part of his history, unfortunately, he retires, or he's traded. But let's just assume they're all together, because currently they all are on the same roster. The only guy whose game is equipped to be that third guy is Harden. You can't ask Kevin Durant to do it. He's the second best player in the entire sport. Kyrie Irving only does one thing well. You can't say, Kyrie, we want you to play defense and distribute. He's not a great passer. He's an abjectly bad defensive player. His entire job, his utility as a basketball player, is cooking Uncle Drew. Get guys off the dribble, make tough shots, twist and get to the line or get to the rim. Harden has won an assist title. Harden has been a sixth man. Harden has come off the bench. Harden also claims, all I care about is a championship. So Harden should be the guy to sign up for that role. I do not know that he is signing up for that role. And listen, if I'm the Nets, I would have made this move as well. Because the elephant in the room actually isn't an elephant, it's a king. And it's all about LeBron. What Durant understood was, in the last decade, if you want to beat LeBron James, you got to have a minimum. The barrier to entry is 3 Hall of Famers. We currently have 2, and one's on sabbatical. So they had to make the bet, because I disagree with Brandon. As previously constituted, they couldn't win the title. But what they had to put in the ante in order to make that bet is their only good defensive big man. And now they are. Brandon can say defense doesn't matter. Come the playoffs, it does. The Nets bet, Jenna, is that they can be the worst defensive team to ever win the title. If Kyrie, Harden, and KD all get on the same page and they gel and Kyrie shows back up, they might be able to do it. You might get 75 points a game from those 3 guys, and that'll be all that matters. But it is a hell of a bet, and it is far from a sure thing.
All right, so how good are the Nets now? What about Ben Simmons? What about the way Harden left? We got 1,005 more angles to the story. We'll hit all of it over the course of the next 2 hours, and I will get a question in. But we got to take a turn, talk some football. Ravens and Bills on Saturday. But which quarterback would you rather have under center? We discuss. It's next. First things first.
What's up, First Thing First listeners? It's your boy Shay Sharp, co-host of FS1's Undisputed. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay Shay, where we always do something before 2 something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now, back to First Things First.
Playoffs between these two teams. All the bananas continue Saturday. A couple of stud quarterbacks in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. Both came out of the first round of that 2018 draft. Josh at 7th overall, Lamar 32nd. Bills head coach Sean McDermott excited to see these two go head-to-head. Take a listen to what he had to say.
I'm sure, like Baltimore, they had a vision for Lamar. We had a vision for Josh, and I think that's the key, and that's why it's cool to watch these players in their careers flourish like they have. And that's also, I think, a result of, and a credit to Baltimore and the environment that Coach Harbaugh has developed there. And I would say the same thing for us with Josh. So again, I think it's great for the league when you have quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, playing like these two, and then Sal mentioned Baker as well, like these guys are, including on the AFC side, Patrick as well with Mahomes there. So it's great for the league.
All right, Nick, I'll start with you. Which quarterback would you rather have on Saturday, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen?
I'm going to answer that question 1 second, but also, by the way, Twitter/GetNickWright. Vote in the poll. Do you count by saying banana or Mississippi? I'll give you the results at the end of the segment. We'll see who's right. All right. I am insulted on Lamar Jackson's behalf here because I feel like I'm in the minority saying I'll take the defending unanimous MVP. And listen, I am very lucky. 10 hours a week, I get to sit virtually next to a brilliant football mind. Now, he might not know as much about health and fitness as Chad Ochocinco, as you learned via podcast this week. But when it comes to football X's and O's, he knows quite a bit in Brandon Marshall. And all year long, I've heard Stephon Diggs might be the best receiver in the league. Cole Beasley, a great slot receiver. Brian Daboll, future head coach. And all year I've also heard, hey, Greg Roman, get your head out and help the quarterback out. And where are the weapons? Where are the receivers? And yet they're in the same place. And Lamar has been extraordinary since the moment he took over for Joe Flacco. Josh Allen's been extraordinary for 1 year. So, who would I rather have? This isn't a stinging indictment on Josh Allen. I'll save that for Monday after they lose. But right now, to me, it's no question. I'd rather have Lamar. Lamar is the guy I would rather have. Lamar is the guy that scares me more. And Lamar is the guy that I think everyone would agree has less weaponry around him in order to fully be able to display his talents throwing the football. True. So, Brandon, I'm going to go with Lamar.
Nick, you made some good points. And this is tough for me. You're right. I've stood on the table for Lamar all year when people were talking about him not being the guy, not being the quarterback that can throw the ball. And I challenged Greg Roman to stand up and do his part. So when I look at this situation, it's not just about the quarterback. I'm also looking at the offensive coordinators. And you also mentioned something, but I won't dive deep into that. It's who are the wide receivers? Who are the running backs, the tight ends, the offensive linemen around them? And I would say that probably Josh Allen has the better supporting cast. So when you look at it, you got Greg Roman and you got Lamar Jackson on this side. I think Greg Roman did a great job of taking Lamar and putting something around him that was safe and also explosive, but he didn't really challenge him to develop and go to another level. This kid has high football IQ, and he has the ability to play in this league for a very long time in the right situation. But the question is, who would you take? Who would you rather have this Saturday? So then you look on the other side, and you got Josh Allen and you got Brian Daboll. This is a kid going back to Wyoming. He was throwing the ball over the field. He didn't really have a lot of guys, so that was a factor. But his completion percentage just wasn't there, just wasn't accurate. He was just playing off pure talent. That's what he was doing. Brian Daboll gets him. Brian Daboll challenges him, built a relationship with him, built an offense around him that fits his skill set. But he said, kid, we got to work on your mechanics. And kid, we got to make sure that you can be a complete quarterback. And what has happened since this kid entered the league, and this is why I have to go with him this Saturday. This kid has gotten better and better game after game after game. 2018 completion percentage. What happened in 2020? Oh, that's just going up. Percentage ranking. He was last and he goes to fourth. Passer rating. You see it. Read it. Rating rank. Yep. How do you go from 32nd in the league to fourth in a 2-year span? So, Nick, I understand where you're coming from. And it's a tough decision for me, but this Saturday, I have to go with Josh Allen. And Wilds, this kid, I'm telling you, could be the one that challenged Patrick Mahomes, not only this year, but so many years to come for the AFC title.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, it's going to be whoever the Patriots quarterback is, and I don't even know who it is, but put him also in there. Okay. Here, Jenna, I'm feeling very charitable. I think you guys are both right. I think Josh Allen has the better game, but Lamar comes away with the win, and here's why. The Bills' game plan, there's all the previews say, oh, you know what you got to do? Dare Lamar to beat you. Dare Lamar to beat you through the air. No, you don't. They're going to run the ball. They're not going to change their whole offensive identity just because you think I'm going to dare him. This is not going to work. They ran for 236 yards against the Colts. The Colts knew they ran the ball. It's still going to work. And here's the other thing. You can run the ball on the Bills because guess who else? Speaking of the old New England Patriots, Cam Newton couldn't throw the ball around either. They threw the ball about as much as the Ravens did. And the plan to stop Cam Newton and the Patriots was, dare Cam Newton to throw the ball. They didn't do it. Patriots ran for almost 200 yards, and if Cam didn't fumble at the end of the game, we would have won the game. So, Nick, I think Lamar just continues to run. I think he makes something happen. I think Baltimore just pushes and pushes and pushes. Lamar doesn't have an awesome statistical game, but they end up winning.
When I ask who's better, Lamar or Josh Allen, Wild says yes. That's what he said. He said yes. Let's pivot. Time for Nick. Which one? Yes, I say. Time for Nick's NBA medals. All eyes were on Harden yesterday and the Nets, but LeBron put up 26 as the Lakers won their 4th game in a row. Guess what? Not medal worthy, but the King doing King stuff nonetheless. Nick, who did make the podium?
Yeah, the Lakers got to stop blowing people out so bad. It's depriving LeBron of well-deserved medals because he's not playing much in fourth quarters. But bronze medalist. We try not to give them to players on losing teams, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker, his team's down at Stars. He's a second-year player, explodes for 37-8 against a very good Clippers team. Nickeil Alexander-Walker gets a bronze and a loss. Silver medalist. Dame time. 40 points, including the game-sealing layup.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard, exceptional last night, exceptional all year. 40 and 13 in a you score, I score game against the Kings.
Wow.
And guys, somebody wake up Michael Phelps, because someone's coming for his record. Our third gold medal for my large adult Slovenian son, Luka, setting records. 34, 13, 9, couple blocks, 4 steals. Carlisle says even better than the stat line. Our first 3-time gold medalist, Luka Doncic. Jenna Wolfe, there's your NBA medals for the day. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dame time, and Luka with his third goal. What say you, Jenna?
If you watch Luka play, he had a chance for a fantastic dunk, which he turned into a layup, which should have stripped him of his goal.
Yeah,
but I don't know if you watched that.
What was that, Jenna?
How dare you?
But we'll discuss that later. That didn't, obviously, he made the cut despite that. Wilds, who didn't make the cut last night?
Jenna, you just stole all my thunder.
Sorry.
I had some thunder, and you just stole. Let's see who missed the cut.
No.
Oh, it's Luka doing the layup. We're not looking at the format, everybody.
Nobody shows
busy
me
day
the
of the Kyrie
rundown.
thing.
I just watch all the games, and nobody shows me the rundown.
Wilds,
Go ahead.
I got your
Is
back,
that a
buddy.
clipboard?
I got your back. Right now, if you watching me in a second, just so you know, this is how we'll put a button on it. 3,390 votes. Do you count by saying one banana or one Mississippi? 97% said Mississippi, and the first comment is, I literally have never heard someone count by saying banana. So as always, Jenna does not know what she's talking about.
In my defense, I learned it from Jennifer Aniston.
America
Jennifer
is
Aniston,
spoken.
one episode of Friends,
America's
it's always
spoken.
been banana.
Jennifer
Some part
Aniston.
of America is
really?
spoken. Which player, guys, has the most to gain from winning Super Bowl 55? Nick's got a list. Shocker. Not sure if the committee has been consulted. We're going to find out next in about 13 and a half bananas. 1 banana, 2 banana, 3 banana,
It's not
4
going to be in
banana.
13
How long
seconds.
is this
Banana.
commercial break?
Just
How long are the banana units?
Hey, First Things First listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People's Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you. Now, back to First Things First.
Back here, First Things First, with Super Bowl 55 right around the corner. Can't help but look at who's got the most to gain by winning it all. We could guess, or we could just ask Nick to share the list. I assume that he's already made. Am I right, Nick? Am I right?
Yeah, I do. You are right. I do this every year, Jenna. I think it's one of the most fun things to do. Maybe that's an indictment on me, but I love it. I think the audience enjoys it. So 8 teams left, 8 players with the most to gain from winning the Super Bowl will go 8-1. Coming in at number 8, the GOAT, Tom Brady. Oh, Nick, you're ranking Brady last again. This is a compliment. He's at the top of the mountain. There's no more mountain to climb. So there's this. It's same thing, by the way, for LeBron. Does LeBron have anything to gain by winning a title this year? Not really. Already the greatest ever. Brady, already the greatest ever.
Terrible.
It'll be nice, but it doesn't change anything for him. No, okay. And by the way, people are like, oh, Nick, you're just finding a thing. No, look who I've got number 7, Patrick Mahomes. He doesn't have that nearly as much to gain as the guys in front of him. You know why? Everyone already understands the best player in the league. Now, if he were to lose to the Browns this coming round, then he has something to lose. But if they beat the Browns, which they will, he's made the AFC Championship game or further every year of his career. He's won an MVP. He's won a Super Bowl MVP. Everyone else on the list has more to gain than him. You might see, wait, there's 2 heads here. What's going on here? The Rams' defensive stars, Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. And Brandon Marshall said yesterday Aaron Donald could go down as not only the greatest defensive lineman ever, but maybe the greatest defensive player ever. In order to steal that title from a guy like Lawrence Taylor, who's got 2 rings, or Deion Sanders, who's got a couple rings, he's going to have to win at least 1 Super Bowl. Could get it done in Jalen. I think it would cement him as a Hall of Famer. Give me number 5, Drew Brees. Drew Brees, what does he have to gain? Well, locks him in as a top 5 all-time quarterback, 2nd all-time in every major passing category, and it would rejuvenate what I consider a crazy debate, but a debate that will exist if they win the Super Bowl. Who had a better career, Drew Brees or Peyton Manning? We had that debate a year ago. It was crazy then, be crazy now, but it would come back. 4 guys with the most to gain. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, number 4. Listen, if they win this Super Bowl, I think you are going to be able to make the argument. I'm not saying I would make it, but you could make the argument he's the 2nd greatest quarterback of all time. You could make the argument that he has surpassed his childhood idol, Joe Montana. That's what Aaron Rodgers is playing for to get that ring number 2.
That's done
now,
already.
You might be like,
that's done already.
He's already the 2nd greatest quarterback of all time. He's already better than Joe Montana.
Yes.
That's a separate show, a separate take.
Yes.
We'll do that on the House of Athlete podcast or something. We got to do that at some point, but I don't know if I agree with you. All right, number 3. Josh Allen. Here's what Josh Allen has to gain. If they win the Super Bowl, can he walk into the Bills front office and say, hey, you know that contract Patrick Mahomes got? I want that. That sounds good. I've done what he's done. Why don't you give me that deal? Also, extra bonus for Josh Allen. Force me into retirement. So Josh Allen, 3rd most to gain. Number 2, Lamar Jackson. Here's an honest question. If the Ravens win the Super Bowl and Lamar's fantastic, is he already a Hall of Famer? League MVP, Super Bowl, would be a man with a Heisman Trophy and a Super Bowl, 1st quarterback since Staubach to do it. Lamar Jackson with the 2nd most to gain. And number 1, the most to gain of any player in the league from a Super Bowl, and would force a different member of this show into retirement, one Jenna Wolfe.
This?
Oh,
No.
Oh, you think he has a lot of commercials now? Oh, what if my guy?
Yeah.
What if my guy has this career track record? Heisman Trophy, number 1 pick,
No.
Super Bowl champion in year 3. And by the way, winning a Super Bowl is one thing. Winning a Super Bowl with the Browns, where your path will have been, by the way, Big Ben out of here, Mahomes out of here, Lamar or Josh Allen out of here, and then Rodgers, Brady, or Brees in the Super Bowl. Sorry, I'm dismissing the Rams.
That's why it's never going to
It would be an unbelievable gauntlet. It would be, he would
really
forget
good.
the contract. Is he going to get a contract? He has more to gain. I'm not saying he's going to win it, obviously. He has more to gain than any other player in the league. So there's the list. And again, these are all compliments. I've got my guy Mahomes, 2nd to last. Brandon Marshall, what say you on the players with the most to gain from winning Super Bowl 55?
This is thought-provoking, Nick. I didn't know if I was going to enjoy this segment, and it's actually intriguing. So I want to start with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, you could potentially say he's number one. And the reason why is because the conversation around Patrick Mahomes is that he can go down as the greatest quarterback ever. So if that is true, then that means you need to do at least half of what Tom Brady has done. So he needs this Super Bowl. Now you look at these guys, defensive guys. I think if they win it, it solidifies their place in a Hall of Fame. That's a big deal for them. And then obviously, it puts them in a position to be, top 5, top 3 at their positions. And like you said, yes, Aaron Donald to me could potentially go down as the greatest defensive player ever because how disruptive he is, but he needs to do that for the next 7-10 years. Drew Brees. Yep. There's guys out there that we want to see go out on their own terms. So for him to win it, he has a lot to gain because it's like, man, this is exactly John Elway, Ray Lewis. There's so many guys that get that opportunity. Yeah. He has that opportunity. He has a really good defense, has a phenomenal coach, and he has the offense to get it done. Aaron Rodgers. I should skip over this one. Man, Aaron Rodgers is probably... Patrick Mahomes is in a position that Aaron Rodgers was years ago. We were talking about Aaron Rodgers going down as the greatest quarterback ever. But what happened? The Green Bay Packers, they freaking... Oh my goodness! They wasted his career. They didn't support him. They did. How do you get one Super Bowl out of this guy? Josh Allen, I think it's an easy conversation around him, because you haven't won one yet. Lamar Jackson, I truly believe if he wins a Super Bowl this way, because we know the NFL is trendy, the pocket passer is done for at least the next 10 years.
Oh, that's right. Hold on.
We know.
Let me respond to that real quick.
Done.
Brandon, let me respond to that real quick, and then you can finish, because that was in my notes and I forgot it. Lamar also has the most to gain for other people. If Lamar wins the Super Bowl, the way quarterbacks are drafted, scouted, considered, changes forever, and he becomes the greatest dual-threat quarterback of all time. So, it's a revolutionary change, Brandon, if Lamar wins it. That's a great point by you that I meant to mention. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt, but that's exactly right.
And I think you're pretty much right there with the 1 and 2 and Baker Mayfield as well. It's the Cleveland Browns. Come on. What Juju said, he wasn't really wrong, but he shouldn't have said it. Right. It's the Cleveland Browns, right? So if he does it, oh my goodness, it's great for sports. It's great for the NFL. But I want to go to Tom Brady. I'm saving the best for last. The GOAT. Tom Brady. He has the most to gain because it's almost like that Kobe and Shaq type of play. Kobe wanted to get away from Shaq to prove to everybody that he was the reason. And what happened when he did it? When he won a NBA title without Shaquille O'Neal, it thrust him in a conversation as not only one of the greatest NBA players, but one of the greatest competitors ever. So Tom Brady, if he goes and wins the Super Bowl without Bill Belichick, now we're not talking about him as the GOAT and the greatest football player of all time. I think that thrusts him in a conversation as the greatest competitor in all of sports, Wilds.
Oh, trying to take LeBron's title. Interesting. That's interesting.
No, LeBron doesn't have that title. Brandon just made that title up. LeBron doesn't have that title.
No, he has that title.
All right, I want to move up. I want to move up my guys. No, it's not. Move up my guys for the following reasons. We are in a historic. My guys, obviously, everybody knows number 99 in Jalen Ramsey. Okay, we are to be the best defense in this era. If they are able to go through this gauntlet, Russ, Rodgers, Brees, and Brady, just to get to the Super Bowl, in a year where this is nuts. Every statistic was a record. Most points, most touchdowns, most touchdown passes, most completion, and highest completion percentage. To be the best defense and as dominant as they had been. And if they carry surgically repaired thumb Goff or the Wolfman Wolfpack, if the defense really carries them all the way, no, enough with that. There's not Jim McMahon and the 85 Bears. It's the Wolfpack in this new squad that probably needs a better nickname if we really want to, do some better marketing. So I think they have the most of it. I think they could be in legendary status, better than 85 Bears, better than Legion Boom, better than the Ravens. I think they have the most to gain.
And I think to kind of supplement that point, the fact that it's 7 quarterbacks on this list, and the one team that doesn't have a quarterback, we don't even know who their quarterback is, speaks to that. It's a quarterback passing league. You've got, 3 of in Rodgers, Brady, and Breeze, 3 of the unanimously considered 7 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Mahomes, who's clearly on his way, and then 3 guys who are the future faces of the league, it looks like, in the 3 guys up top. And then it's the Rams with either Goff or Wolford. It speaks to how high that mountain is they have to climb. Now, I think they slip off it this week, but if they beat Rodgers, you go through Russ and Rodgers in your first 2 rounds, you've already done something, Jenna.
Let's go.
All right, we head back to our top story now. The Brooklyn Nets improving their title odds overnight. Are they now the team to beat after getting James Harden? It's next. First things first.
Retire before the trade call.
Saturday on Fox, the Rams take on the Packers at 2:30 Eastern. Then on Sunday, it's Brady and the Bucks against Breeze and the Saints at 6, all presented by TurboTax, live on Fox and the Fox Sports app. Back to our top story now. The blockbuster trade sending James Harden to the Nets. Fox Bet Sportsbook has updated their title odds, and would you look at that? Harden's Nets creeping up on Knicks Lakers. Brooklyn at plus 333, barely behind the Lakers at plus 240. Don't tell our guy Chris Broussard. His Clippers tied for 3rd. Too late, Chris Broussard heard. And he's joining us now to break it all down, but we won't go there. All right, Broussard, let's just stick to the matter at hand, the blockbuster trade. Is this trade enough to make the Nets your championship team?
Heavens no. No, look. I'm fine with them being the favorite in the East. If you want to make them the favorite in the East, okay. But part of that is there's no juggernaut in the East. Milwaukee, we know their playoff issues. Boston's young, and Kemba Walker's got knee issues. Philadelphia's got a point guard that won't shoot, and Miami's just not that talented. So I can give them, make them probably the favorite in the East. But for the entire league, I am sticking with the Los Angeles Lakers. And I say that without any hesitation whatsoever. Let me say this. You've got to give Brooklyn a puncher's chance. With that much firepower and talent, you'd be foolish not to at least give them a puncher's chance. But this team is the greatest chemistry experiment in my 26 years of covering the NBA. And that is because of style of play and personalities and ego. Number one, you got 2 ball-dominant guards that dominate the dribble and both want to be the man. I don't know how that's going to work. James Harden did not show a willingness to share or defer to Chris Paul, to Russell Westbrook, to Dwight Howard. Is he going to do that now? Can he do that after all these years of being the man?
Wow.
And this is not like plugging in Kevin Durant with Steph and Clay, who both move off the ball and can catch and shoot. Kyrie and Harden need that dribble to get their rhythm. So this is going to be an interesting experiment stylistically, and then personality-wise. Kyrie clearly sees himself as the leader on the team, and you can see that on the floor. It's going to be hard for him to get these guys to buy in now, but he sees himself that way. James Harden hasn't been not the man or the leader on the team for the last 8 or 9 years. So this doesn't answer the Nets' biggest question, which is Kyrie's mentality. So as much talent as they have, and it is great talent, there's no denying it, questions abound so much that there's no way I can put them ahead of the Lakers, who right now look like they are head and shoulders above the rest of the league.
Well, I'll go a step further, and I'm going to give the Nets the benefit of the doubt. Broussard, let's just take as a given, Kyrie is going to come back rejuvenated and refreshed and be the offensive player he was before he went on this sabbatical. Let's also take for a given that they mesh and get along great. It's the NBA's version of the Three Amigos. They just can't. Every time we see them, they're all laughing together. They love each other, sharing the basketball. And the Nets get to where they should already be, which is the #1 offense in basketball. Let's take all of that as a given. They're still not good enough to get out of the East. And that's because there are 2 sides to playoff basketball. And right now, they will be starting a lineup with one above average defender. Durant's actually a very good defender. Kyrie, objectively bad defender. James Harden, if you get him out on the perimeter, objectively bad defender. DeAndre Jordan is fossilized. He got a DNP coach's decision the other night when Nikola Jokic was killing him. And Joe Harris is an extraordinary shooter, but he ain't playing no defense. You are going to have to go through in the first round Miami or Boston, in round 2 Philly, and in round 3 Milwaukee, some order, form, or fashion. It ain't happening. Not with that defense. Their bet is they can be the worst defensive team to ever win a championship. And the depth is a bit of a concern in this regard. Do you know who their backup center is? It's Jeff Green. Do you know who their backup power forward is? It's Jeff Green's identical twin brother, also named Jeff Green. Like there's a lot riding on Durant and, more questionably, DeAndre Jordan. And so, listen, I get why they did it, because they were drawing dead to win a title before, but I don't think this changes the math for them, Brandon. I still don't think they come out of the East.
Brendan needs a full
First
adult
off,
jersey.
Nick,
It's his son's jersey.
You need a grown-up jersey.
Nick, this is
hold it
this is not the NFL.
Hold up.
Championships, you don't win championships by playing defense in the NBA. NFL, Wild, you have a point. The Rams do have a fighter's chance, a puncher's chance, right? Because they have a great defense. In the NBA,
there we go.
Not so much. And then also, Chris, I just don't understand why you don't listen to me. We go back to when I first joined this show, and I was thrust in this conversation around the NBA. The NBA, what was happening? They just restarted their season. They entered in the bubble. And what did we see in the bubble? And what was I talking about in the bubble every other day? I was talking about James Harden, how he was evolving. Two things surrounding James Harden: ball dominant, and he didn't want to play defense. He did both in the bubble. He started playing defense. We were talking about it on every single show. Everybody, every network. And then he also was distributing the ball. He was playing off the ball. So this whole idea that James Harden isn't willing to evolve, it's a bad idea. And then the other thing, you know who James Harden reminds me of? And I'm not trying to compare them, because one is the greatest player on the planet and potentially can go down as the greatest player ever. He's not there yet, Nick, and that's LeBron James. And the reason why he reminds me of LeBron James is because LeBron James had to go down to Miami, team up with D. Wade to get that monkey off of his back, to get over the hump, and then he was able to go on and be the guy. That's James Harden. James Harden's been the best player in the NBA in the regular season for the last, 5-6 years. But then he gets into the postseason and he implodes. We're talking about 12 turnovers in a game, all-time high. Yeah. We're talking about a guy that goes from shooting 40-something% to not being able to hit the back of the backboard. And now, who do you have on the other side? You have KD. You don't have that pressure anymore. You know going in, if I just drop 20 or even 17 sometimes, now I know KD can go for 35, 40, and we'll be okay. So this whole thought that this is not going to work is ridiculous, Wild.
So if he's willing to be the Ray Allen type character, I think it works. And the question for you, Broussard, is who's willing to be the guy who raises their hand and says, you know what? I'll sacrifice my personal stats. Who wants to be Chris Bosh, who Toronto Chris Bosh was doing 24-11, and Miami Chris Bosh was 19-9. And Seattle Ray Allen was 26 points a game, and Boston Ray Allen was 17. And Minnesota Kevin Love, big star of the whole North. 26 points and 12 rebounds. Up come here, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Yep. And by the way, he's still there. So I think it has to be Harden. I don't know if Harden can I don't know if he actually wants to do that. I don't know if you're an MVP and a scoring champion. You know what? You're right, Steve Nash.
You're not listening to me.
16 points a game is good for me. I don't think he can do that. Do you?
Well, look, Wilds, nobody's willing to become Chris Bosh or Kevin Love. That's just not happening. Bosh was 16-6 by the time it ended in Miami the last 2 years. Yep. Nobody's willing to do that. But I'll give you this. Harden is the most capable of changing. Harden could be a full-time point guard, run the offense, get the other guys involved. He's a tremendous passer, and he still would get you about 23 points a night. But is he willing to do even that? If he's willing to do that, and then you got the question of would Kyrie be willing to play off the ball most of the time? So I think Durant's personality is more like the one that would back up, but you can't have him back up because he's your best player. So, like I said, questions abound. And, Brandon, why I don't listen to you, because you just said defense don't win in the NBA. I mean, come on. Nick went overboard in saying they can't win the East, but you went overboard and saying you don't even have to play defense. Just outscore everybody. Come on. You got to play some defense.
The last 10 years, that's exactly what it's been.
In Brandon's defense, the coach of the actual head coach and the assistant head coach of the Brooklyn Nets, they have all those rings from those offense-only teams in Phoenix. Wait, they never even made the finals because they couldn't guard anybody. But just, hey, listen, real quick, because Broussard, I know you wanted to get to this. We didn't have time. The Great Eastern Migration continues. That king goes out west, and all of a sudden, it looks a hell of a lot more attractive to go play on the East Coast. For 15 years, no superstar wanted to go to the East. They're like, no, it's LeBron's conference. Now he's out west. They're like, oh yeah, let me go see the Eastern Seaboard a little bit.
Smart.
See how that works out. Maybe I can make a final.
Didn't Kawhi Leonard just join the Clippers?
It's smart.
Didn't Kawhi Leonard just join the Clippers?
We've only touched on this story. So much more to come. We'll talk some Rams Packers on the other side. Can the best quarterback in the league, Aaron Rodgers, outplay the best defense in the league led by Aaron Donald? It's Aaron and Aaron. Nick's fuming. First things first. Look at the best quarterback coming. Super Six is heating up. $250,000 up for grabs Saturday. And on Sunday, there's another $250,000 and a truck on the line. Let's start with Bucs Saints. Nick, who's going to win and by how many?
Man, I so badly wanted to support Brandon's preseason prediction of a Saints meltdown. And if the Seahawks hadn't blown it, I could have, because it'd be Seahawks Saints. But because it's Bucs Saints, and because we've seen this story before, Saints by 6. Good game, but Saints win by 6.
Who that nation? Stop tweeting me. I know what I said in the preseason, yes. But look, you guys are really good now. Nick's right. They're playing better. But the Tampa Bay Bucs and Tom Brady, they are on a mission. So I got Tampa by 6. And don't tweet me, who that nation.
Wow, they're going that. Just for the record, how social media works, you're definitely going to get more tweets now. And remember, Brandon mentioned the other day, don't tweet him. You have to troll him on Instagram because he's more heavy on Instagram. Tom Brady never lost 3 games to the same team ever. Maybe when he was playing Pee-wee football, we got a researcher, Dusty. What do you? Well, it's the truth.
That's true.
What do you,
That's true.
The truth is done.
How many times has he ever played a team 3 times? Once.
He played the Jets 3 times.
We don't know.
Twice, maybe.
He played someone else too, Dusty said. Anyways,
what do you
Jenna,
have?
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. It will be Bucs 32.
Trying to get everyone on track.
Saints 21.
Yes. Oh, wow.
Bucs by 11.
Well, you can download the free Fox Super 6 app. Get your picks in for your shot. All you got to do is predict 6 outcomes in each NFC game this weekend. You guys good? We got to move on. Back here talking playoff football. All right. It'll be Aaron Rodgers in the Pack versus Aaron Donald and the Rams this weekend. Rams are number 1 in total defense, pass defense, and scoring defense. Rodgers is number 1 in passer rating, touchdowns, and candidates to host Jeopardy. Former Packer Greg Jennings is joining us now. Greg, who's got the edge? Rams defense or Packers offense?
Inside scoop.
You guys got to do this to me. This is tough. This is a really tough one. So I'm gonna play with it for a moment before I give you my answer. So I really like the Rams defense. I like what they do from an interior pressure with Aaron Donald, obviously, and then Floyd on the outside getting pressure on the edge. Someone that can kind of contain and keep Aaron Rodgers in the pocket. That's what you want to do with Aaron Rodgers, and then you can match up against their best receiver with Jalen Ramsey. And a lot of people just think it's all about Jalen Ramsey, but it is not. They have Darius Williams, Troy Hill, excuse me, when you look at this deep, they have so many pieces in that secondary that are playing well. And for me, Brandon Staley and Sean McVay on one side, and then you have Mike Pettin and you have Matt LaFleur on the other side, and Aaron Rodgers, man, in this offense. I love him. I just like this. I like this defense a little bit better. I like this defense a little bit better. And and the reason why is when you have a bye, and everybody wants to play for the bye, and you deserve it because you earned it. But I just feel like it disrupts your rhythm. Yes, does guys get healthy? It does, but it kind of disrupts what you've been doing so well. And they've been playing so well, but this Rams defense has been on a roll. And yes, did Aaron Donald suffer some bruised rib? Yeah, I'm not concerned about any of that. I've seen both of these teams play, and this Rams defense looks really, really good. And then offensively, they don't have to just throw the ball. They run the ball so their offense transfers to the cold
Take it back,
climate.
Greg. Take it back. You're an all-time Green Bay Packer great. There's no way you can say that right now.
Exactly. Like you just said, they're gonna hit me. They're going to troll me all week in my mentions.
No, you can't. I'm ready. You're one of the greatest Packers of all time. You won a Super Bowl there. You probably got the ring on now. But look, you're being bold because of your ties with Green Bay. But you are right. Now you're the third person in America that's leaning towards the Rams. There's Kevin Wildes, there's Ray Lewis, and then there's you. And look, you guys convinced me.
Come on, Nick.
I think I got to go with the Rams too. I think let's go. Look, Nick, this is not the NBA. Defense wins championships. So I just remind me of that great San Diego team back in the AFC. Back when 2006 to 2010, they had Lights Out and Phillips, and they had all these other guys. And what happened was they won the games by themselves, and they gave the secondary the opportunity to go to a whole nother level because they didn't have to run. They would literally just sit there. I remember being in my route. Being 5 yards down the field, I had a 15-yard comeback, and all I hear is, oh! Antonio Cromartie never got out of his break, never even got into his back pedal, and all of a sudden I turned back around, Jay Cutler's getting smashed. Boom! And I think that's what we may see play out this week. That defensive line, Nick, is phenomenal. We know that. And then you have Jalen Ramsey. He eliminates an entire side of the field, and then the rest of the guys that Greg just talked about, they're good, but now they're great because they don't have to cover long.
Love it. I love it.
All those are good points, and I'm going to add to your point, even though I don't agree with it. Nobody has mentioned this name. David Bakhtiari, not playing, not there.
Oh,
maybe the best left tackle in football.
That's right.
And everyone, you got to double team Donald.
He's on a COVID
which
list.
Means Leonard Floyd is going to be single teamed. No, Bakhtiari got hurt. Bakhtiari got hurt in the final, the practice right before the year. And so the fact of the matter is, I mean, they just signed a tackle who played for the Colts. I can't remember the guy's name, but he's going to play for two. He's, by the way, going to be eligible for 2 rings. Well, the Colts got knocked out.
No, he's
Belvier, I think is his name. But he's out as well.
List.
Okay,
he's
so
out.
he's out as well. They signed him, and he's on the COVID list. Point remains, you're going to be able to get a pass rush, all right? So I get the argument. And, by the way, these teams haven't played in a while, but the last time they played was a somewhat famous game. You guys remember the Ty Montgomery game? When he returned that kick when he wasn't supposed to and he fumbled it and Mike McCarthy's upset and Aaron Rodgers mad? That's the last time these two teams played. In that game, Aaron Donald, 4 tackles behind the line of scrimmage. 2 on running backs, 2 on Aaron Rodgers. He blew that game up. The Rams won. Despite all that, y'all are nuts. How many points do you think the Packers need to score? 21? They're going to score them. Like, I think the Rams defense might have the edge, but not enough of an edge to overcome the fact that it's going to be either Wofford or Goff in 25-degree weather at Lambeau Field. Neither one of these guys is going to Lambeau Field and dealing. And you'd be like, well, the Rams scored 30 last week. No, the defense got a pick 6 to add to it. And the Seahawks offense was so impossibly bad all game that the Rams kept playing on short fields. So I understand all of the reasoning behind it. But the Packers are going to win. John Wolford or Jared Goff are not going to Lambeau Field and beating Aaron Rodgers. It's just not happening. So, no, I'm going to go with the Packers, as great as the Rams defense is.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to give you a quick Monday preview. Nick, do you have all your folders? For some reason, Nick writes down his notes on folders, then keeps all the folders. I don't know if he wants to put them on eBay to a big Nick Wright fan.
Yeah,
so you have on Monday,
I've got them.
You need to go back to the folder that said Green Bay should support Aaron Rodgers and not draft a running back and not draft I forgot even who they drafted. Who's the quarterback they drafted?
Jordan Love.
Goodness.
Jordan Love.
Yeah. Jordan Love. Don't draft Jordan Love. They should have drafted someone to protect Aaron Rodgers because that's what's going to happen. Greg, welcome aboard to the Wolf Pack. Even though we're named after Wolford, doesn't matter whether or not Goff starts or Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey control the game. We're still calling ourselves the Wolf Pack. I want to show you this graphic on how dominant Jalen Ramsey has been. I don't know why this game is going to be that much different than Seattle's game. He shut down everybody. And the idea that Devontae is just going to run wild and be the one outlier on this list, I don't see it happening. I know you guys are the wide receivers, which gives me extra confidence that even like the super confident wide receivers like, Jalen Ramsey, I'm a little bit nervous. So welcome aboard, Greg. Thank you very much. Feeling good about Jalen Ramsey's and Devontae Adams.
I'm the only person picking the Packers? That's what's happening here? Greg Jennings came on and he didn't pick the Packers? Y'all are insane, man.
Look, I wouldn't be surprised if the Packers win, but one thing I want to say about that stat line right there, Wilds, is that's when it's just Jalen Ramsey. And so what the Green Bay Packers have the ability to do is move Devontae Adams everywhere, specifically in the slot. And Jalen does not go to the slot. That's why the other guys, Darius Williams, Troy Hill, are going to play such a huge role because they are not just going to allow Jalen Ramsey to match up one-on-one where he wants to, which is on the outside on the perimeter. If he's going to match up, he's going to have to follow Devontae all over the field, which every team knows that's what they do. They move him everywhere.
All right. I can't believe no one brought up the Jeopardy topic. Back to James Harden now. He said he wanted out. He acted like he wanted out yesterday. He was granted his out. Did he handle it the right way? We discuss next. First things first. Brandon was right. Back here talking the blockbuster trade in Brooklyn. James Harden casually hinted at getting moved out of Houston coming into the season. Those hints quickly turned to wants. Those wants became demands. And by yesterday afternoon, it was inevitable. Harden was going to be moved. Broussard is back with us now. Broussard, did James Harden handle this the right way?
Jenna, is complicated. I hate what James Harden did. I hate what he did to Stephen Silas. We hear all this talk about wanting more black coaches, black executives. Silas paid his dues for 20 years, and this is what you do to him. So I hate that. I hate the way he treated his teammates. The idea of treating John Wall, Boogie Cousins, Eric Gordon, Christian Wood even like they are scrubs, I can't even fathom that. So I hate what he did. However, it's a dog-eat-dog world. This happens in entertainment. Heck, Lionel Richie left the Commodores. I'm sure they were upset about that. I mean, this happens all over the world, corporate America. It happens in our business. Sometimes it takes being a jerk to get what you want. I hate to say it that way. I wouldn't do it. But look, if he had played nice, play at his top level, be nice to everybody, he's still in Houston today. So it's complicated.
Yeah, that's right. And Broussard,
you won't do it, Chris.
Oh, go ahead, Brandon. Sorry.
You won't do it, Chris, but I would. And I actually did it. And for everything you said, guys ain't going to remember this 20 years from now, right? I'll be counterculture, that's fine. But when you think about this, you hit it on the head. His only leverage is how you play. So when a guy comes to you quietly before the season and say, I want out, I'm not happy here, I want to go win a championship, I gave you everything I can, and then you hold on to him, and then you publicly say, well, we're willing to go deep into the season, even if it's really uncomfortable. I side with the player. I side with the player because this is his 12th year. He's done everything. He wants to win a championship. He doesn't want to be on the list next to Charles Barkley as one of the greatest players to never win a championship. So 20 years from now, Nick, we won't be talking about how he exited Houston. What we will be talking about is how he won a championship in Brooklyn with KD over LeBron James.
All right, so you got two things wrong there. One is they're not going to win a championship in Brooklyn. The other thing you got wrong is that Broussard's never done this. Google the trades about when Broussard was just lighting Stephen A. on fire because he wanted to come work with me. I mean, people forget it, but it happened. Check it out. I think it's an Hollywood Reporter. That may or may not be true. But listen, at this point, the ends justified the means for Harden. He acted as poorly as a professional athlete can act. And his punishment was exactly what he wanted. I mean, it was, he went to the strip club, he went to the birthday parties, he was maskless, he lit his teammates on fire, he stopped trying in games, right. And because of that, they sent him to Brooklyn to play with Kevin Durant. So for Harden, it worked out beautifully. I don't know if it's a blueprint for many players, but a player of Harden's caliber, I suppose Brandon was right, he always had the leverage, Jenna.
All right, so the Sixers were the other team in the running for Harden. Broussard, how should Philly fans feel about missing out on Harden?
You're disappointed, but I don't know that you can be mad at the Sixers. I'm told that they offered Ben Simmons. We all know they offered Ben Simmons, but also Matisse Thybulle and Tyrese Maxey. And Houston turned it down because they wanted draft picks. Houston made a mistake, all right? They could lose Victor Oladipo at the end of this season or max him out. He's not a max player. And then they got 4 draft picks that could be in the 20s. All right, most lottery picks don't pan out. Draft picks are overrated. They're important, that's right, but they're overrated. They should have taken Philly's package. I'm gobsmacked by Houston's ignorance, to be honest.
Oh, gobsmacked.
Gobsmacked. Please.
Just Ben Simmons should have been enough.
They should be disappointed for a few days because they could have potentially won it this year with Harden. But long term, this is better for them. You add Seth Curry, you add Danny Green, you add Doc Rivers, and long term, after the Nets win their championship, they're going to be in great position to run the East. So this is really good for them long term. We know the challenges around Ben Simmons, Nick, but when you add those other pieces, those shooters, they have everything they need to compete.
Yeah, listen, the Rockets are planning for 2025 when hopefully Tillman Fertitta's got money again and they can pay players. The Rockets did not make the best deal they could have made, and it's because of the finances surrounding it. You know how I know that? They picked Oladipo over Karis LeVert because they didn't want to pay Karis LeVert $54 million total over the next 3 years. So I don't think the Rockets made the best deal, but I don't blame Raphael Stone. I think it came down from ownership, and I think Sixer fans should be, a little disappointed. But guess what? Sixers are still better than Brooklyn, so they'll be fine. Who's guarding Embiid?
Oh.
I'm just curious. Jenna, you tell me. Who's guarding Embiid? I don't know.
So
I don't know.
Harden is in. Kyrie still seems to be out from the Nets for personal reasons. Wilds, what does this deal mean for Kyrie's future with Brooklyn?
Oh, it just means more uncertainty. If you're Kyrie, are you wake up happy today? They're like, wow, my path to a second championship just got easier. Or do you wake up a little bit more confused? You say, I thought I was going to be, partners with KD, and now I might be the third wheel. I might be the Chris Bosh. I might be the Kevin Love, but I'm Kyrie. How can I be Kevin Love and Kyrie at the same time? Broussard, if it's a 50-50 coin flip, I think that he's less satisfied with this than I think that he's happy about it.
Great point, Wilds. Look, he left a championship team to be the man, and now he's the third best player on his team. I agree, he's probably not happy. Look, it's a great security blanket for the Nets if for whatever reason Kyrie doesn't return. It also makes Kyrie expendable. You could trade him. The only problem is he might decide to retire if you decide to trade him and send him away from home. So it's just more uncertainty. You're right, Wilds.
Look, when Spencer Dinwiddie went down, I thought that was a great opportunity for them to get this deal done and go after Harden. They didn't do that. But now you got to think that this is not good for Kyrie. Well, maybe it's good for Kyrie. I truly believe he's contemplating retirement. When you hear Steve Nash come out and say, well, I don't know where he's at, I haven't talked to him. And then a couple days ago, he says, well, I'm coaching the guys here. As a player, being in those situations before, seeing how my head coaches handled it, this is telling me that this guy is dealing with something that is bigger than basketball, meaning it may be an identity challenge where he doesn't know if he fits in the NBA anymore.
Yeah, listen, I'll be quick. Some people look at this as the Nets adding a third star. Some people look at this as the Nets adding an insurance policy for Kyrie Irving. And I think if you set the over-under, Jenna, on career playoff games, Kyrie Irving plays with the Brooklyn Nets at 1. I think you'd have plenty of people who bet the under, either because of retirement, trade, he gets banged up again and then gets moved. I think there's real question about whether or not when they make the playoffs, assuming they make the playoffs, I think they'll get in, that he's around for that, Jenna.
Wow. All right, back to the NFL. Which player has the most to gain by winning it all? That's next. First things first.
If they make...
Saturday on Fox, the Rams take on the Packers at 2:30 Eastern. Then on Sunday, it's Brady and the Bucks against Breeze and the Saints. It's at 6, and it's all presented by TurboTax, live on Fox and the Fox Sports app. All right, gentlemen, time now for stories to start your morning, sponsored by Ram Trucks, built to serve. And yes, we're talking about the blockbuster deal that went down yesterday, reportedly sending James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets. And a whole lot of picks and players going back the other way. Harden gets his wish. He gets sent packing out of Houston. And the trade unites what some would say is now the best big three in NBA history: KD, Kyrie, and Harden. So, Nick, is the Harden trade enough now to make the next year championship favorites over LeBron and the Lakers? She asked for a friend.
No, of course not. But before I even get to what it means, let me explain what happened. So yesterday around the league, it was pretty clear this was going to go down. Harden's press conference seemed to be the final straw, and Houston was engaged with Miami, Boston, Philly, and Brooklyn. Miami and Boston did not have the requisite assets to get involved, or they weren't willing to give up the requisite assets. Philly thought they did. And Philly put Ben Simmons on the table, and Houston pushed away from that table and instead made this multi-team deal with Brooklyn. So show what everyone gave up, then we can show what everyone got back, and we can talk about what it means. What everyone gave up is the Rockets, I believe, gave up Harden. The Nets gave up their depth, I would argue their best rim protector, and the entire future of their draft capital in order to get Harden. The Cavs and Pacers, just to make the deal work, ended up coming out really good. You see who they gave up. Now we can scroll forward, see who everyone got. All of a sudden, the Cavs are like, wait, what? I got Jared Allen out of this deal? You did. Congrats to you. The Rockets get an expiring contract in Oladipo, an expiring contract in Exum. I don't know if those guys are going to be on the team long term, and Oladipo might get traded again before the deadline. But for the Rockets, they are essentially short selling the Nets' future. They think that by 2024, 2025, the Nets aren't going to be good. The Nets think we can win a title right now and be the best offense in basketball. And you see what the Cavs and Pacers did. The Pacers basically just swap out Oladipo for LeVert. LeVert's under team control. So focus on now the Rockets, if we can, so you can see what the Rockets did. Got rid of Harden, 4 first-round picks, 3 from Brooklyn, 1 from Milwaukee, 4 pick swaps. I don't know if the swaps will come into play. Brooklyn would really need to fall off, and Houston would have to get better. And for the Nets, you see what happened here. The Nets traded everyone they could trade. Theoretically, they could have traded Dinwiddie, but he's hurt. They're not allowed to trade Joe Harris because they just signed into a contract. And they could have traded DeAndre Jordan, but to trade a player, other teams have to want the player, and nobody wants DeAndre Jordan except for Kevin Durant because they're buddies. So the Nets trade away all the depth, and I think their best defensive player, and they get James Harden. So coming into this, I did not think the Nets were going to come out of the East. I did not think they had enough. Coming out of this, I do not think the Nets are going to come out of the East. I do not think they have enough defense. And I understand in the regular season, you win a lot of games 133, 131. That's great. In the postseason, the Nets are making a bet that they can be the worst defensive team to ever win a title. Go through the last 30 years of NBA history. What do all the champions have in common except for, I think, the 01 or 02 Lakers? They are a top 10 defense by the end of the year. The Nets have no shot at that. And when you're going to have to stop Giannis, you're going to have to stop Embiid. They certainly have no post defense. So I think, Brandon, I think the offense is going to work. I think it's too much talent, even if the fit's a little weird. And here's the beautiful mind version of how this worked. It's just so many things going on. That's why it's tough to be an NBA GM. So I think offensively, they're going to be brilliant. I think defensively, it's going to be a really, really tough sledding and a massive pressure on Durant because he's going to be the only even above average defender in their starting lineup. So I get why Brooklyn did it, Brandon, but to me, it doesn't make them forget title favorites. I don't think they're the favorites in the East.
Listen, so be it, Nick. So if they win the title and they go down as the team with the worst defense ever to win it, then so be it. Who cares?
Yeah.
This isn't this isn't the NFL where championships win defense. This is the NBA. There's been a huge shift over the last 6 to 10 years where now it's about, can you score the basketball? That's what it is. And then you talk about, defending the post. Show me a graph, show me numbers where we have these bigs in the league now that's dominating the paint. The only one that's doing that is Joel
Anthony
Embiid.
Davis would be
outside
the one.
of that.
Well, I mean,
Anthony Davis is out there dribbling between his legs and shooting threes. But I think, yes, shooting threes and out there on the perimeter dribbling the ball between his legs. So I think this is great for the Nets. This is my team, a team that I picked before the season started to win the NBA title. There's this whole narrative out there that James Harden won't evolve. It won't fit. It's this whole chemistry experiment. No, James Harden showed you in the bubble that he's willing to evolve. Two things surround James Harden, right? Will he play defense or won't play defense? And he's ball dominant. In the bubble, trying to win a championship, what did he do? He played defense. All we were talking about on all shows, all networks were, wow, James Harden is playing really good defense. And he also is distributing the basketball and playing off the ball. So this whole thought and this whole narrative that James Harden only wants to shoot the ball, he needs to dribble, it's ridiculous. And then when you think about how impactful this is and how dangerous this is to everyone in the East in this NBA period, it's because you got James Harden, who's similar to LeBron James. LeBron James needed to go to Miami to get over the hump. He went down there, the pressure was off. He had D-Wade, he had Flash over there. He had guys that can help him. When the game was on the line and he was covered, or if he was off, D-Wade was there to pick it up. That's James Harden. He struggled in the postseason. In the regular season, this is a guy who's probably the best in the NBA. But then he gets there 12 turnovers. He goes from dominating on the perimeter to now he can't even hit the back of the backboard. So now you got KD over there that can pick you up when you're falling a little bit. This team is dangerous. While this team, I'm telling you, is better today than they were yesterday.
Oh, I agree with that, and I agree that they can win the championship. Tough sledding for Steve Nash, and I've got an idea, Nick. Sit everybody down and put some videos on. You can put the Heat championship video on, people celebrating, confetti coming down. You can put Boston's championship on, the most recent, which was a long time ago, Danny Ainge. You see Ray Allen celebrating. Yep. You put the Cavs championship on. There's Kevin Love. And say, hey, guys, see this? If we want to win a championship, someone needs to be Chris Bosh, someone needs to be Kevin Love, and someone needs to be Ray Allen. Who wants to be it? Not you, Joe Harris. You're not in the ball. Joe Harris like, oh, okay. Because here's the thing. Toronto Chris Bosh averaged 24 points.
Not
Miami
you,
Chris
Joe
Bosh
Harris.
averaged 19. Seattle Ray Allen averaged 26 points. Boston Ray Allen averaged 17 points. Kevin Love in Minnesota was doing 26 points, Nick. Now he went down to Cleveland. His first year, he went 16, lost 10 points. Like, sit back in the corner, hit some threes, get some rebounds for us. We're going to win the championship. You'll get a ring. And by the way, you'll still be there like 10 years later. So, Nick, somebody's got to do it. This team is not the Warriors that, like, the ball's moving all over the place and, oh, actually, Clay scored more points. That ain't it. So which guy is going to be the guy who raises their hand and say, you know what? I'll do it. I'll be Chris Bosh. I'll sacrifice my score.
All right, so let's just assume. Let's assume that Kyrie's there, and we don't know that he's going to be there, but let's assume he is. It has to be Harden. And this is where James Harden is a fork in the road moment. James Harden was given everything any NBA superstar could ever ask for in Houston. It didn't work out. He forced his way out, and I would argue he's forced his way out in a less than professional manner. He was adamant, publicly and privately, this is all about winning a championship. Well, if so, then Harden is the one that has to adjust the most by far for these reasons. Durant's the best player. You don't want to change what Durant does. He's far and away your best player. Kyrie doesn't have the ability to adjust. He does one thing well, score the basketball. He's not an elite passer. He's a bad defender. Harden has won an assist title. Harden has made a finals coming off the bench. Harden has been a third option. It was a long time ago, but he's done it. So if it really is, all I've got left is, to Brandon's point, not being on the list with Karl Malone and Charles Barkley, then at this point it's time for Harden to put his game where his mouth is, to take that step back. I don't know that he will.
I agree with you there.
And even if he does, I don't think they're good enough defensively, Brandon.
30 and 30 in a playoff game by KD and Harden. This is going to be phenomenal. Guys, when they open it up, okay, at the Barclays Center, I'm going to be sitting right there front row. I promise you that.
We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.